Hi everyone, I'm Gary Null and I'd like to welcome you to a special presentation. It's a part of our ongoing self-empowerment series. And the series is meant to help give you challenges, offer insights, and stimulate thought. Our program today is called It's Not Your Fault That You're Stupid. Well, maybe it is. But when you think about it, we do a lot of stupid things, don't we? Of course we do. And then we feel stupid, or someone says, that was stupid, or you're stupid. Well, it's my belief that if we understand why we did these things, then we have some power over them. But if we just keep repeating them, then nothing's going to change except we're going to have a lot of consequences we're not going to be happy with. So what do? I'm going to give you a series of questions. Now, it's not that my question, or what I might add in as a partial answer, is what's going to be beneficial just for you, but it's a way that you can start. You can use my question as a starting point to think, let me see where I can go with this. Now, we have an audience here, and it's packed. And the people in this audience are all going to hear the same identical question, but each and every one will have their own idea of what the answer should be. And they can all be right. The nice thing about the questions I'm giving is there's no one single right or wrong. It's all about having the courage to think outside of the box. Now, let's go to the first question. Do you accept that which confirms your beliefs? Now think of that. Do you accept that which confirms your existing beliefs, the beliefs you have right now? Do you ignore or deny that which is of another belief? Because an awful lot of what we do in life is really an illusion. And part of knowing whether or not we're making stupid choices is whether or not we're engaging in illusion. And frequently the stupid act comes when we engage our thought process in an illusion instead of reality. Sometimes reality is just too hard to accept. We don't want to accept it. We don't want to accept that we're not as young and attractive and sexy and energized as we once were. But for most people, it's a fact. We don't want to acknowledge that maybe our lives have not been as constructive as they should have been. But for most people, it's a fact. We don't want to acknowledge that we have beliefs and things that long ago we should have abandoned had we been honest about what it was the belief was asking us to do. But we did it anyhow. And then one day there's a consequence. Because the interesting thing about life is, if you deal with facts, you'll always see where you're going to get in a week, a month, a year, where you're going to be. What's going to happen? High probability. Now, there are very few things in life I can control, but if I make a positive choice based upon what I really believe is true, I have some control over the outcome. If all I do is believe in illusion, I have no control. There's no control over illusion. I was watching a really well-produced program on PBS about Broadway. Did any of you see it? Yes. Wasn't it good? Oh, it's just great. It showed you decade by decade, from the very beginning of Broadway, back at the beginning of the 1900s, what was happening. And I think it was around 1922, there were 250 new Broadway shows in 1 year. And that's an awful lot of Broadway shows. We're lucky to have 10 new ones today. And it also showed you some of the Ziegfeld girls. And I had a Ziegfeld girl who was living in my building. And she was so wonderful and always talking about what it was like. And they gave us a rare glimpse into what it was like, because he wanted to show the personification of beauty and then talent. And then later, when he did a very important play do you remember the play that he did that was the first that really took music but made it significant? What would you imagine was the first Broadway play that combined good music but a significant story? A serious story. Showboat. Showboat was the first story that was a very serious story. But it was blended. He took a chance. He produced it. It was blended together in such a way that it was just magnificent. And he didn't believe people would want to come and see it. They were used to seeing just the illusion, right? And why? Why did people want to come and see all these beautiful women? And a lot of them were 6 foot tall, very tall women. Why? Because the rest of their lives, as one of them said, in the Bronx, there was no beauty there. There was no great hurrah for life. It was just kind of making the best you could of what you had. So you would escape and go see a movie or a play. And that gave you a moment in time to let all that be outside when you were a safe environment inside. We're no different today, except we use different vehicles. We will go to plays, but we'll also watch television. Or we'll go to a concert. We'll read a book. We do a lot of things to try to take ourselves away from the moment we're in. Why? Now, there's nothing wrong with going to plays or movies or reading books. It's the reason why we're doing them. If the reason why you're doing something is because you can't really handle the starkness, the bleakness, the boringness, the repetition, the predictableness of your day-to-day life, then you're going to seek out something that will give you a chance to feel different. Of course, nothing has changed, has it? Because when you come back from wherever you've escaped to, you're back to where you were. There's nothing wrong with having a life where we have challenge, where it's not the brightest or best it could be. The problem is if we try to escape with illusion and we don't stay where we should be. Stay in the moment long enough to understand, what can I do with the moment I'm in? Now, the first thing you can do is say, how did I get in this place? Why am I here instead of over there? Why am I dressed this way instead of that way? Why am I eating this instead of that? Why does my body look like this instead of like this? It's our beliefs. Not only what you believe, but what others believe you should believe. Think of all the people who will do something because it's expected. So one day you wake up and all you're doing is honoring other people's expectation of you, so you then are the guardian of their gate of beliefs. But what that also means is anything that does not match your belief, you have to discard. So if someone says, through chanting or drum beating, you can reach an altered state where you feel really relaxed and euphoric, and you'll say, no. You don't look at it, you don't try, it's just no. Because one of the dangers of beliefs that are held so tightly, it keeps you so confined within a limited perspective. You don't even believe anything outside of that perspective can be real for you. And that's the problem with not addressing the first question. Accepting that which we confirm, including a negative. Believing, well, I can't go on a cruise because I'll get seasick. And then you believe so much you'll get seasick, you would get seasick. Instead of realizing today there are things you can do so you can go onto a rough seas in a ship and not get seasick. Or I don't know who those people are. I don't speak their language, so I have nothing to communicate. Then again, you won't communicate with anyone who doesn't speak your language or is not in your economic class or doesn't have something in common with you. Then it becomes reinforcing. And then one day you realize that you spent most of your life merely protecting and conforming to your beliefs instead of asking a legitimate question. Which of my beliefs should I surrender, and what have I denied that could have allowed me to grow and experience life differently? Because that's where we begin our stupid choices. Think how many people right now, today, as I'm speaking, how many people out there are sitting down to a pizza, barbecued ribs, right? And they're going to enjoy it. It's going to taste good. French fries and salty and crunchy stuff. And then they're going to have to go through digestion, and that won't feel good. And they'll get bloaty and gaseous, and that certainly is not good, but people around them adapt to it. Oh, that's Harry, he's, after he eats, he floats, just like a little balloon around the room. It doesn't have to be that way, but we adapt to what we believe in. How many women have adapted to accepting that their figure is going to change because they're 40, 45, premenopause, perimenopause, menopause, or postmenopausal? They assume that because everyone else they know has changed, they too will change. What about the woman who says, hold on, why should I believe in this? Why should I believe I should take synthetic hormone replacement therapy? I read an article that it's going to increase my risk of breast cancer, stroke, heart disease, ovarian cancer, and dementia. Now, I was told that squal vine and Vitex and Dawn Quai and juices and soy protein and isoflavone would rebalance my hormones with DHEA and other things. And someone more likely than not will say, no. Why? Doctor, professor of medicine, President of the United States, Nobel Prize winner, doesn't matter what title you give them. If they are believing in one thing, they automatically deny everything else. They're not going to test it, review it, be objective, or seek it. You cannot seek the truth if you deny the truth of anyone else. Because if you have what you believe is the truth, then automatically it makes everyone else accepting lies. So rather engage in their lie and despoil yourself, pollute yourself, adulterate yourself, you say, no, there's no value to it. And you dismiss it out of hand. So then the person says, well, I better go get my synthetic hormone replacement therapy. And I better accept I'm going to get overweight and fatigued, because everyone I know got fatigued and overweight, and got the goiter, or got hair loss and thinning, and the libido's down, and that becomes their reality. And when you start making those choices, those are stupid choices, aren't they? It's the belief system, because you didn't open yourself up to changing. Number 2, what in life is transitory? Transitory means change. What in our life changes? What? Let me hear it from you. Everything. So let's talk about everything. Everything changes. Will we agree upon that? That nothing is the same? There's an old saying that you cannot step twice in the same river, because water's always moving. So what does that mean, everything is changing? Break it down so it's easier to understand. Your relationships, your body, right? Your environment, your work environment, your friendships, the political scene, the world events, the forest, the animals. A report came out today that showed that 20% of all species in the world were affected, disseminated, destroyed in the last 30 years. That's how bad it's gotten. Yet who knew? There's always change we're not aware of. And you wouldn't know there's this kind of change, negative change and positive change, unless you were open to it, right? But we're so focused on just us. And what do we try to do more than anything else when it comes to change? Stay the same. Because there was a time that you had to focus upon what was considered stability. So a stable relationship, a stable home environment, stable work. So for a period of time, people could go through their life where not a whole lot changed that wasn't expected. They expected, they anticipated growing older, getting sick, and dying. It was expected, right? You were the exception if you had minimal conditions as you got older. Oh, they lived to be 70 and weren't sick. Like that was really good. That was the exception. And then we said it was in their genes, no matter what they did or didn't do. It really bothered people when they saw their neighborhoods change. And indeed, when people go home and see what's different than when they went to school or grew up, if it's changed too much, it saddens them. And they start remembering what it was like, because that's the energy they hold that was positive and nourishing. And then we look at our relationships, and we think that the deal we made at the beginning of a relationship is the deal that's forever. Is it? No. And not that it's worse, it can be better. Some relationships actually change for the better. I don't know any. But being optimistic. Someone in the universe surely had something better. But more often than not, if we're honest, once we really get to see all the nuances in someone's personality and all the way they play themselves, we start to see that it's a dance of adaptation, a dance of trying to fit in to the other person's life in a way that is not overbearing or uncomfortable. And then one day we start stepping on each other's toes emotionally. And then it's contending with our opposites, what we are bothered by. But at the end of the day, what we're really bothered by is ourselves, because we can't control our reactions to what we don't like in someone else or in some job. So then our arguments are really about us, not necessarily the other person. We're blaming the other person, but it's about us. What if we decided, instead of needing to be right, we simply said, let us simply accept the moment for what it is? Well, what happens when you accept something for what it is? What? What?
It's gone.
When you accept something for what it is, what happens? You can let go of the need to control it. You have to accept that you got to go on. All right? Don't try to always figure that you can, being right and fixing things, it becomes a fetish. There are very few things in life that we can really make right, because by all the energy you put into trying to make it right, time has changed, everything's changed. Why not look at where can I be in this moment? I can be here in this moment I'm at, trying to make something happen now, or I can keep being in the past, trying to make the past different. Why? It's going to continue to evolve with or without you. Nothing stops because we want to take it a moment in time forever. And yet we've all had those moments. We've had those wonderful, delicious moments that we think, wow, this is just so blissful. This is paradise. And it is in that moment. And there could be again, but it won't be the same. Our problem is trying to make that moment the same. You can never make that moment the same again. And that's what happens when we get fixed on a moment. Instead, if we're fluid, if we're flowing, and we let our energy flow, then you're like in a current. You're flowing with the current. Instead of turning around and saying, no, 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 no. I like 2 weeks ago Tuesday, and you're swimming back upstream trying to find Tuesday. We're always trying to find something to reconnect to that was really significant. You can't. It doesn't exist. It's gone. Appreciate it for what it was, but focus on now. The older we get, the less likely we are to focus on the now. Why? Because we feel our options are less, because we're no longer as flexible. It's almost as if we're told that we're hardwired to be limited the further in life we go. So then we wake up one morning and we feel, where are we going with this life? And we look around and there's a whole lot of things we don't like. Maybe our relationships are not the way we hope they would turn out at this point. Maybe our job isn't what it is. Maybe it's insecure. Maybe we could get fired or laid off. Maybe the environment is different. We no longer can go for a walk because there's a street gang that, we're looking out at. So we're now a prisoner in our own home and we're angry about it. Maybe we can't even afford the taxes on our home anymore. Maybe the things we at one time bought we can't afford to pay for. Maybe one day we wake up and realize, my goodness, there's so many things in my life that I cannot control. I am so frustrated. And then what do? We no longer believe we can change this moment. If you can't change this moment, then you don't have a future. And that's why that second question is so important. The third question, what creates the limits to what you can achieve? What creates the limits? Our beliefs. But what if you challenged your beliefs and you said, whatever I choose to achieve, I can and I will, because I believe in myself that much. and then you put it in your mind. You focus, you visualize, and keep everything out. Don't allow anything else to distract you. Don't multitask because that's just a distraction. Keep singularly focused on getting what you want accomplished. And realize, first, is what you're trying to accomplish going to allow you to be what you can be? Does it honor who you are? Is it authentic? It is a real connection. Because if you're trying to connect with something that's not authentic, that's stupid. How many times have we connected in a relationship that was not authentic, but it was convenient? Do you know how many guys I know who are in their 40s who hang out at single places or do ads with the hopes they'll find a resume and a face that they feel compatible with because they're so insecure that they feel their life is so empty without someone else to be with, so they'll take whatever comes along as if, well, gee whiz, who else is going to want me? I'm 40 years old. I don't have all my hair. I don't have all my virility and strength. I mean, I'm not 20 anymore. So we start thinking, well, I better take what I can. We do the same thing with jobs. We do the same thing where we live. There's a wonderful country we live in. A lot of places you can still live where it's beautiful, nice people, great schools, and it's not expensive. And yet I know people who are stuck in highly congested, very crowded, overly priced environments because they feel they have no other option. And indeed, they have no other option because their mind didn't allow them to think of having an option. Remember, whatever you think, that is what you're going to become. That's your reality. So if you think negative, you're going to end up manifesting negative. And then each day you're going to wake up and adapt to the environment you're in. You're going to adapt to the person you're with. You're going to adapt to the pain from your past. You're going to adapt to what society said you can't do because you're such and such. You can't do it. The moment you accept that, you're limited. I don't want to see you limited. I want to see you expand. I want to see you be like Niagara Falls, just flowing with energy. Unstoppable. That's what's possible if you believe it. Number 4. Do you believe that the limitations of the past will become the limitations of now? Now think of that for a moment. How many times have you felt you wanted to do something and stopped yourself because you didn't believe that you could get beyond the pain that you were holding from the past? So you have to have a conversation with your pain self, your fear self, your limited self, before you allow the self to say, well, I've been in pain, I am confused, I'm uncertain, I'm not truly confident, I have marginal self-esteem, I may put on a smiling face for the world and a little bravado, but underneath there's a great deal of turmoil that I process by complaining to friends or watching television or escaping into moods and depression and for long periods of time. Well, then what in the world is going to be the moment you're in? You've simply invited everything from the past that you believe is not going to change into now. So if you believe you are not going to change, then what you have suffered in the past becomes what you're going to suffer now, and hence your future is only regurgitating the same suffering. You have to believe in something other than the past. The past is not your strength. The past is an amalgamation of everything that has held you into a belief that limited you and your experience. You have to believe completely in your capacity at this moment. Think of the people who have not allowed their past to dictate where they're going. Recently, I was down in South Beach. I'd done a television special, and I had some hours to knock away, so I went down there because it's a wonderful place. I think South Beach is one of the most terrific places in America because it's party time. It's always open to joy, fun, pleasure, and you have people that truly enjoy themselves. And it's interesting to see the local population who are far more sophisticated about just openness. You got a new beach, you've got people playing volleyball, you've got people dancing, you've got music. You'll see couples out dancing in the street. Now, if they did that here, they'd be off to Bellevue, right? Yet here you can yell and scream in the street, and that nobody pays attention, right? That's normal. And so I'm watching. I'm sitting at this outdoor restaurant, and it was just so nice looking at the ocean across the street and on Ocean Drive. Any of you been to South Beach? Really a great place. And a whole amalgamation, people smiling at one another, people stopping and talking, strangers talking. Hope you've enjoyed it. We'll continue next week. See you then.